Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Sexy Intro City. I'm your host, Beatriz Vieira, and thank you so much for being here today with me and my guest. I have here today an episode that's going to be talking a topic that not a lot of men will be transparent and vulnerable to say. And my guest, he is authentic, he's genuine, and he's vulnerable. So please, guys, no judgment. With all respect, we will approach a subject that not all of us are willing to discuss in the dating world. Welcome, Christopher Pickering. How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Nice to meet you as well.
Nice to be here with you in this space where we can discuss that. So, Christopher, I will let you introduce yourself for our audience, for our followers, and all the people that's going to be listening to this. Who are you? Who's Christopher?
Who am I? I'm Christopher. I have genital herpes, HSV2, if anyone knows what that is. And basically, I used to talk about fitness stuff on social media, and then I kind of transitioned over, talked about herpes, and now I basically just talk about herpes as my sole content.
Yeah, because that
media.
affects you, right? It affects you in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Dating. Are you dating right now?
I am taken currently.
Yes. There you go.
Yes.
So let's.
Yes, it doesn't hold you back.
So let's talk about like before you were taking and you were navigating. How did you get that? How did you discover that you had genital herpes?
Okay, so contrary to what people think, anyone can get it. Basically, it doesn't really, there's all this like stigma around. Oh, you must have like had a bunch of partners, or like you must be a bad person or something. And like that's not really the case.
The fuck boy.
No, exactly. Yeah, and it can happen to like people's on their first partner, or they could be with 100 people and never get it. And it also can happen from people who have it up here, can get it down there. Yeah. So
yeah, because like, hold on, let's talk about this, because I think that's a good point that you approach. A lot of guys and girls think, oh my God, I'm gonna go with this guy and I'm just gonna give him a blowjob and then he's gonna be happy about it. But hold on, you can get it there too. And same goes for the guy.
Yeah. I think like before we get into anything, like, do you have any specific questions that I can like cover kind of like for people to kind of know? Because
for sure. Absolutely. So I wanted to like, I think like the modern dating words suck, to be honest. Like, I think it sucks because the people everybody wants to get laid. Everybody wants to get like, intimacy, but nobody are actually talking the real talk and say, hey, let's go through this stage where I get to know you and get to know the things that are important. Because before getting intimacy aspect, I feel like we should talk about that. Do you have any health issue that has to be discussed? Should we do you think like people should take like a test before they get into bed?
So that's a really good question. The answer to that question is that a lot of people have no idea that when you do an STI panel, herpes is not included on there. So when you go to the doctor and you say, oh, let me get tested for everything, herpes is not included. And the main issue I have is like, they don't even tell you that. They don't even tell you like, oh, here's what you're not being tested for. So everybody that's like gone and got an STI test and has like negative for whatever, they weren't tested for herpes, so they don't actually know. Some people can have it here or there with no symptoms.
The lips and the genitals.
And the other thing is that like people who get cold sores, for anyone else who's listening to this right now, like cold sores are herpes. It's an oral herpes outbreak. It just has a different name, and it's something like 66% of people under 50 have had this here. And like I talked about before, having it up here could at some point be transferred to someone else's genitals, and they're going to feel the same as I do.
Yeah. So is the herpes that they have in the lips called cold sores, are they as bad when they are in the genitals? Do you think? Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So it totally depends on the person. I've had people who, like, I've talked to people who get like a cold sore like every couple months, and I know people who have like one outbreak down there their whole life. So it depends on gender sometimes. Like sometimes women can have a little bit more painful outbreaks here or there. And then it also just depends on the individual as well. Like,
yeah, so a lot of girls or guys going to be listening to this and they're going to be like, okay, hold on. Oh my gosh. If somebody has herpes in their genitals and I kiss their lips, am I going to be contaminated?
no. So it's a common question I get. So having it up here is like pretty common, right? Like more common than down here. Yeah. So if someone only has it here, touching their genitals, there's no risk. If someone, and then
Okay,
like me, for example.
So if I have a herpes in my lips and I'm gonna give my partner a blowjob, I will not transmit my herpes from my lips to his genitals?
There's a small chance, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll just kind of like explain that. So if you have lip herpes and it's like HSV1, which it most commonly is, there's like HSV1 and HSV2. The type doesn't necessarily mean the location. It's just that like one prefers being up here and type 2 prefers being down there. So if you were to have it up here, or anyone out there who gets it here, if your partner also has HSV1, you're not going to reinfect them. But if someone doesn't have HSV1, which would probably be here, there is a small chance that when you perform oral sex on them, it could be transferred there.
Got it. Okay. So what is the symptoms for genital herpes?
Okay, so the first ones that I got, basically going kind of like into my little story, like I met someone, didn't talk about this before, didn't use protection at the time. However, protection doesn't always prevent in every single possible situation. So just keep that in mind. Yeah. So there's areas that like shed that aren't necessarily covered by a condom. So keeping that in mind. Same thing with HPV. These are both like pass through skin to skin contact. And sometimes there's like, even with a condom, like I'll talk personally, I get my outbreaks on my pubic area. So like if I was to wear a condom and I was to have an outbreak like unknowingly, my pubic area is not really covered by a condom. So basically I contracted it within like 2 to 4 days. I had like painful urination, swollen lymph nodes in my throat, into my crotch. I had like bumps developing on my pubic area, basically. And then I had like a dull, burning, aching pain. And like the first outbreak is like noticeable and like kind of annoying and painful.
Yeah.
But typically people either don't have frequent outbreaks after that, or they're very mild.
Is there a treatment for that?
Yeah. So there's no cure. Like once you have the virus in your body, it never leaves. But that doesn't mean you're going to have any more outbreaks. You could, but it's not guaranteed. There's antivirals, which is acyclovir, valacyclovir, and famciclovir. And basically the doctor will prescribe those to you after your first outbreak, and that'll help like speed up the process of healing. Because honestly, my first outbreak was like 2 or 3 or 4 weeks long. Wasn't very fun, but
that's a lot of pain. Is it really painful, I imagine, eh?
It depends on the person. For me, I would say like the first outbreak was like a 8 out of 10 for pain. It was just kind of like always there because it was healing. And then once it kind of healed, it was like really itchy. And that was more annoying than the pain. But
Christopher, now that when you discovered that, like it was something that you went to the doctor to, discover that what it was. What was the impact when you kind of got like the news, like I have, genital herpes now? What was the impact?
I get that question a lot. And mine is like going to be different because mine was basically after I got symptoms, I kind of like went online and like I was in denial. I was just thinking like it must be just friction burns from having sex or whatever. And then I basically went through the symptoms and like kind of in my head concluded that it was herpes. So when I went to the doctor, I basically said like, I think I have genital herpes. Can we check? As opposed to like, let's get tested. So for me, I kind of already accepted it before I went to the doctor. It wasn't like, you have herpes. Oh my God. For me, it was like, I probably do. Let me just go to the doctor and see, because it didn't seem like anything else.
Chris, how was this? So you got the news and then now you're dating and you're going like, you have to make this cautious choice to let girls know. How was that going on dates and then have to discuss that with the girls. How was that? Please,
So the first,
please, like,
yeah,
bold and tell us.
yeah, yeah. So for the first, like, I guess for the first month, like, obviously I thought I'm never gonna have sex again. My life is over. Like, I'm never gonna be able to date. No one's gonna like me. Like, I felt like if I had sex, I would automatically get something else. Like, it was just bad.
Oh
And
shit.
obviously,
So
like, I
you went
had
to that
to,
emotional and
yeah, yeah,
psychological.
yeah, yeah. Like everything that everybody felt that I get messages like my life is over. I felt the same thing, but it doesn't actually last over time as long as you like try to think your way out of this way. Um, but obviously, like going on dates and stuff was difficult because I always knew I had to disclose. And I will say this, I think it does maybe differ between men and women. Because like for me, I never put pressure on women to
Mhm.
be with me. So it's almost like I went on dates to see if they liked me. And then I would eventually disclose, as opposed to I feel like some
Like
women maybe
eventually
feel,
when?
yeah, yeah, I feel like women maybe might feel some pressure from guys. So they feel like they have to disclose, like, oh my God, like, what are they going to think? Versus me, I'm kind of like, let me see if you actually like me or if I like you. And then I'll worry about the actual disclosure part.
So when it
And
okay, so then when do you know like they like you, whatever, and you
mhm,
like them, you
mhm,
have this confirmation. How
mhm,
would you approach? Because people, you need to like, there's people out there is gonna be listening to this and they might have the same symptoms, or they have this, doubts about, oh, I might have genital herpes,
mhm,
and they are scared to how they're gonna disclosure.
mhm.
How did you do it?
Okay, so I'll give you two different examples because there's like the pre TikTok and then there's the after TikTok, basically.
Okay.
Um, I think it was like 3 or 4 months after I got diagnosed. This was like December. Like I met someone like online basically, and we, like we kept in touch and like hung out with each other. We didn't get like physical until like 2 months after that,
You
just
didn't want it
because
to, or was just because it didn't happen?
it didn't
Or
happen.
okay.
It didn't happen. Yeah, it was just like different circumstances, and like it was
Okay.
winter time, and there was like lockdown and stuff.
Hmm.
This was like 2020, like
Okay.
December basically.
Gotcha.
Um, and then basically like I think I didn't pressure anyone either. Like I didn't pressure the girl, and then things kind of like got to that point, and then I basically had to disclose like super duper not soon. What's the word? Like very abruptly. Let's just say that before things were going to happen.
Hmm.
Um, and at the time, like English wasn't this person's first language. So what I actually did was like go on Google Translate and I typed in like, "Hey, I have the virus that causes herpes. I take medication to make myself safer. Let me know if you have any questions." And I showed it to her, and then she was kind of shocked. She's like, and then I was like, I don't even know how to react now. And then
You feel
like
like,
long,
shit, the crossification is there.
yeah, because like I had never, that was like the first real disclosure. And I hadn't like, I didn't know how you're going to perceive me basically.
Yeah.
And then
You
nothing
you you
happened
you
that
are
night.
scared too, right? You
Yeah,
were
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, how that gonna go? Like, I'm putting
Hmm.
myself out there, right?
Hmm. Yeah, especially because it's like the first time. Because like when the first time you do it, you're like, I don't know if this person's going to be okay or if they're not going to be okay. And if they're not going to be okay, will everyone feel this way going forward?
I know. That's
Um, yeah. So nothing
wow.
happened that night. She like thought it over, and then like things did go that far eventually. But like the funny part of the story is that I think like a week after we had sex for the first time, she got a cold sore on her lip, and this was not from me whatsoever. Like there was no oral sex performed. Um, and like at the time, like we were funny with each other, and I looked at her. I was like, "You literally have oral herpes, and you didn't even tell me." And like I had to disclose to you, and she's like, "Oh no, I just get it when I'm sick." And I was like, "Literally, you
Oh
like the
wow.
like it wasn't for me whatsoever."
So do you think like I like that? I like what you're saying. Do you think when people has a cold sore, they should have disclosure with their partners?
Great question.
Uh-huh. Because a lot of
So
people has there, and they're just like some food or some, I think like exchange the salive to another human being, can activate that as well, because sometimes your immune system fights over whatever that virus is into you, because we are exchanging virus here, like your energy, my energy, your saliva with my saliva. And it can come out that reactions of me having herpes in my lips or cold sore. So should I say it? Should I not say it? Should it be that a topic of conversation of going like on a date and you see that that date is going to move forward to a like eventual relationship? Should we talk about that?
So it's like a very good question, because there's a lot of people out there who to this day don't know that cold sores are herpes. So you tell them, like I've had conversations, I'll be like, you know that a cold sore is herpes. They say, no, how could I have herpes here if I never had sex? We're like, no, because herpes is gross. And I'm like, basically, if most people get it here and we're
In the
all
lips?
brainwashed,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and everyone's brainwashed to not think it's herpes, and people have been like kissing and having oral sex their whole life without disclosing or without even knowing, how are we going to be able to be like, hey guys, everyone that's ever had a cold sore, you should disclose? Like it's such a large group of people that telling everyone to do that is obviously the right answer is yes.
There's
If you know you
taboos
get cold
about that,
sores,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
your answer is yes.
Like this, yes, the safe answer is everyone that gets cold sores should disclose to their partner before they kiss them, if not before they give them oral sex.
Absolutely.
But
I
like,
agree with that. Because we
yeah.
shouldn't know what we get into, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely. So after that, you said that you had another situation where you disclosure that you had a genital herpes with
Mhm.
another person,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
How was
a
that?
couple people, yeah. So after, basically after the after like this first person, they like moved away. They went to like BC. They were just like traveling around Canada basically.
Mhm.
Then I started like doing the TikTok stuff, and from
Mhm.
there, like that's where my like confidence grew and like acceptance grew, and I was more so fully fully comfortable with telling people that I have it, obviously, because at that point I don't look at it any differently than if you have it here, um, because it's both herpes. And if like the way I look at it is like I tell like typically girls will be like, oh, like I'm scared to disclose, and I'll tell them like, if a partner is going to judge you for having herpes here because
Down
you
the
had, yeah,
vagina. Hmm.
yeah, because you had sex while the person you're on a date with is actively trying to pursue you for sex, it seems kind of hypocritical, especially if they themselves ever had a cold sore here.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and like just to talk about sex in general, we live in a world where like sex is taboo. There's always going to be a
Very
stigma
much.
around sex.
Hmm.
So if we can't get rid of the stigma around sex, we can't really get rid of this herpes stigma, because
Hmm.
there's less of a stigma for this. So it's not
Absolutely.
really about having herpes, it's about the fact that you had sex and had herpes.
And it's so funny how it is so much taboo that when you go buy something for cold sore, they don't put in a label of the medication, herpes, lips herpes. they don't,
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
they embellished the word for cold sore, you know.
Exactly. You just
So
get it when you have a cold, right?
exactly, or your body's in a very hyper heat level, then
Mm-hmm.
kind of you feel fever or whatever, then you get that on your lips. I
Yeah.
like that. I like, and that's why I created the podcast, is to demystify and to have a place where we can be transparent and vulnerable and talk literally about, intimacy and things that we don't talk normally going on dates. Is like we go on dates, and honestly, like even online dating, if you like, you can remember your old time because now you're taking.
Yeah.
It's like you go there on the line date, is like, hi, how are you? I'm good. How are you? How was your day?
What's your favorite color?
Yeah. What do you like? What's your favorite food? What do you like to
Yeah.
drink? Like, can we just like be like deeper?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or you get at those other conversations where the girl just say, especially in Bumble, the girl has to initiate a conversation, and it
Mm-hmm.
happens to me. I'm saying that as experience.
Mm-hmm.
If I approach the guy, say, hey, I like that jacket on you. It looks very good. It looks cool on you. Like good pick, And the guy go, hey, good morning. Do you want some more morning cuddles? Dude, really? Do you really just say that? Do you want a morning cuddles? Like how people can offer some stranger that they don't know to have a morning cuddles, like even with the possibility to get another genital herpes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that people are
Yeah, I don't
not
know.
like so aware of the things. So did you approach after that you knew that you have a genital herpes? Did you approach dating differently?
Not really. Like the way I'll say it is most of the time when it comes to like dating, whether it's girls or guys, like you don't like the person after the first date. Like no one
Mm-hmm.
goes on first dates and then it like automatically just like, oh wow, you're
Mm-hmm.
great. So most
Mm-hmm.
of the time when it came to me like dating, like one-off dates, they would never be disclosed to unless I wanted to just for fun. Because I typically wouldn't want to see them after the first date, like whether they didn't like me or I didn't like them or there was like no chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
That in itself, like herpes wasn't the deal breaker. It was just in general, dating is hard. And yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right, all right. So now that you're in a current relationship and all of that, how was that to disclosure that you had herpes with your current partner?
Mhm. Mhm. So, like I said about the whole TikTok thing, after I was more open about it on social media, a lot of people kind of like already knew before they met me, or I would bring it up with the topic of like, oh, I talk about like sexual health on TikTok. Like, I talk about herpes. Do you know what that is? Like, more so from that perspective and less so from like, hey, before things go any further, I think you should know this about me. Like it was never became that other than the first time. So people either know I have it or I don't ever take it personally if they reject me. And I've had like people reject me after I've told them,
How
like
that made you
directly.
feel?
For the two that like kind of rejected me, it didn't really feel like much. They were like, there was not much of a connection there. I had
Mm-hmm.
someone who I was supposed to meet up with, never did. And I think they saw my TikTok or they saw my social media and they like unfollowed me and like I unfollowed them. And like it was clear that it was like not going to happen. And I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. But at the end of the day, like I want to date someone who wants to date me. And that's how everyone should think.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. What is the most like asked questions about genital herpes that you receive on your TikToks?
the most asked questions, what do I get? The most asked question, honestly, is how do I disclose? And that's like a whole like point in itself is that when everyone is asking how do I disclose as opposed to how do I deal with physically having herpes, it means that the main issue with having herpes is how people are going to view you and how you're going to be able to date and everything like that, as opposed to what will this do to my body? Because long term, it's not going to do anything. Basically, it doesn't get worse. And like everyone is worried with how do I bring this up?
Absolutely. I heard a situation with somebody that I knew, a friend, and she was dating for like, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years, the guy. And she had a vaginal herpes, and
Mm-hmm.
the guy for some reason didn't got in the beginning of the first 2 years, but then the third year he got it and the symptoms and it was there, and he went to the doctor and he's like, I don't know what's going on, I'm freaking out because I'm not sleeping with anybody, I'm just being faithful to you, sleeping with you, and we're in a committed relationship. What have you done? You cheat on me. And
Mm-hmm.
then he came, well, she was my friend, and he came to me to talk to me. Hey, do you know something going on with this friend of yours? Because now I have this problem and she never. I said, listen, I am not aware, because you not going around, I feel, the way that you are doing, telling the world about this health issue. Like I feel like there's a lot of shame. So friends doesn't talk to friends, hey, I have a genital herpes. It's a
Mm-hmm.
really shameful thing to talk about, right? So I wanted to say that I'm very proud of you to disclosure that and to make an impact in the world, especially like as a young man, like you, and to make an awareness to people to have a dating with intention, and have a more cautious of with who you're going to be sleeping around, because collecting numbers for guys, I feel, and nowadays too for women more as well, like women's are in this kind of like a feminism vibe where they can be sleeping around with as much guys they want, and etc. And I am feeling a disbalance in the dating world. I feel like there is not a balance going on right now. It's like a competition to the genders, male, female, and the matriarch and the patriotic and feminism, masculinism. Like there's like, mm-hmm. So I really wanted to encourage you to really continue doing the amazing job that you're doing on TikTok, and invite everybody that's listened to this episode to go there, follow you, talk to you directly, see whatever information they have, because people are hypocrites. They wanted to have the hubba hubba yummy yummy sugar delicious sexlicious whatever nights, but they're not being honest. And some people that wants to do this procedures of the yummy delicious cookie and whatever banana split, mm-hmm. whatever we want to call that, they are not being transparent, and they are not doing the due diligence to be aware of like the impact they can have in somebody's life. Because mm-hmm. I also heard another person that they actually killed themselves because mm-hmm. they were getting so much rejected by the dating world, mm-hmm. right? That was in Brazil. And they actually killed themselves. They say, my life is over. My life is done. Because, guys are rejecting me, and I don't see this, I've been called a slut because they think that I'm sleeping around with the money men's. And genital herpes, there is nothing to do, like you said in the beginning of the episode, there's nothing to do with how many partners you have. And another question I wanted to ask you is genital herpes something that we are born with, or is it really transmitting through a sex action? Because people are going to be listening to that, they're going to be like, do I have, like, even though it's clear how mm-hmm. we get that, some people still have this, interrogations, question mark on top of their head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So genital herpes, like, so whether it's here or there, like no one is necessarily born with it. There's like extremely rare situations where like babies could get it. But like generally speaking, no one is born with herpes. I hear everyone say like, oh, I must have been born with it here. Or like everyone's
in the
born
lips,
with it,
they think
no.
that you're born with the virus. No. That's why I'm asking the question, because a lot of people, when we go to talk about I see friends of mine, they have like lips on their lips, mm-hmm. the herpes, and they say, yeah, I was born with that. Everybody has that in their genes. Some people kind of get it like external than others, mm-hmm. but it's not.
And people say, they probably tell you like, oh, everyone has it, but it just takes certain things to activate it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so no. So basically, people say that they've been born with it because they probably got it so young that they've lived their whole life with it. Typically, like oral herpes is passed from a parent or family member or some random person kissing you, or like a kid kissing you when you're young. And that's how you basically get it. So like all cold sores are herpes, not all herpes is sexually transmitted. If it's down there, you probably had sex to get it. If it's up here, could have been non-sexual, but it could have been like a romantic kiss or something. So basically
that's why I'm so like, people don't understand why I'm so picky when I go to the restaurants and ask a straw to drink in a glass. Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit weirdo when it comes to that. Like, I always ask a straw. Can I please ask a straw, please, straw? Because I don't know how well those glasses has been washed. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to ever get one, right? Is anything else that you would add to this conversation, to just like for people out there that's going to be listening about the subject and how different impact you can make in their dating world?
Yeah, like the number one tip basically for people with genital herpes is like figure out how you feel about yourself before you start dating. So for me at this point, like I don't feel dirty. I don't feel like it's any different than having it up here. I know that There's no guarantee I'm going to ever give anyone herpes. And basically figure out that like no one's opinion of you will change how you feel about yourself. So if you still stigmatize yourself and you still feel like you're a bad person or that you're not worthy, then someone else who says that to you is going to reinforce that. But in terms of like me, like I know none of that is true. So whatever someone's opinion is of me won't change how I feel. And then I can basically date and disclose with confidence.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much for being here today. And guys, don't forget, my name is Beatriz Vieira. I'm your host. And this was another episode for you. And I appreciate it. If you're not following us yet, go on our Instagram and follow on Instagram. Is at Pod Sex in Toronto City. And all other social medias is just Sex in Toronto City. And this is Christopher Pickering for you guys. Go follow him. What's your Instagram? I forgot I think it's a different, right? Is it Christopher
It's
Pickering?
just Pickering Fitness.
Pickering Fitness. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
And that's
Instagram
like,
is the
it's the
same.
same. Yeah.
Exactly, guys. Go follow him, ask the questions, because he is the guy that it will not bullshit around. He will disclosure to you. He's vulnerable, he's genuine, and he has been through this. He can help you with that. And I see you guys in the next episode soon. Thanks for being here. Bye for now.
Thanks.